right, so tonight we're diving into Casablanca. And, come on, this movie is practically old enough to belly up to the bar at Rick's, you know? But somehow it's still top of the heap, one of the all-time greats. What's the secret ingredient in this 1942 cocktail of wartime romance? What makes it so potent? That's our mission. Figure out how those words on the page, even after all these years, still grab you. We're going deep into the screenplay itself for this one.
You hit it right there. It really is about the words. See, most movies, they'd kick things off with a bang, some action to grab you. But Casablanca, it's all about atmosphere. Page 1, you're right there, immersed. You've got that map of Europe, right? Those desperate lines of refugees, everyone trying to escape, all leading to Casablanca instantly. You get it. The city's bursting with tension, danger around every corner. The stakes are sky high right from the start, and we haven't even met our heroes yet.
So true. And speaking of, gotta talk about that line, everybody comes to Rick's. More than just a line, it's practically the movie's mantra, right? The screenplay turns that cafe into, a character, a crossroads of wartime intrigue, smugglers, royalty, you name it, they're all rubbing elbows at Rick's.
You got it. And the way they bring Rick onto the stage, fascinating. You hear about him before you see him, that whole air of mystery, Think about Yvonne practically spitting nails at him. We get a peek into their past, sure, but it's more than that. It tells us who Rick is. And now, W.
Yeah.
Guarded, cynical, seen some things,
Like putting together a puzzle, but we're starting with the edge pieces. And the screenplay keeps dropping these hints, little breadcrumbs of backstory, makes you hungry for more, like that bit with Renault, the police captain, that veiled threat about something in 1918. Still gives me chills.
See, that's what I'm talking about. They were masters, these writers. The dialogue, it doesn't just tell you the story at hand, it hints at these whole other stories, these big, messy lives. Every word's working overtime. Like, look at Rick and Renault. Renault says, I suspect that under that cynical shell, you're at heart a sentimentalist. On the surface, just an observation, right? But think about what we're learning about Rick. Renault's hinting at something deeper, something we don't even know yet. It's like he's seen a different side of Rick, one capable of real, sentimentality. And that sets up this whole dynamic between them,
That's like every line has this double meaning, like there's this whole other conversation happening underneath, makes you want to lean in, catch every word.
That's it, you got it. It rewards close listening, this screenplay. Speaking of things best saved for later, just wait till we get to the love triangle.
Mm-hmm.
The writers, they flip the script on that one, and that's where things get really good.
It's funny, they really string you along with this love triangle, don't they? You see Rick and Ilsa back in Casablanca, all that heat between them, and then you get that flashback to Paris. Clever.
Oh, it's masterful. By the time we're seeing them fall for each other in Paris, we already know it crashes and burns.
Yeah.
The heart breaks right there in Rick's eyes, in Ilsa's voice. They could have started with the flashback, sure, but where's the fun in that? Instead, we're figuring it out right alongside Rick, wondering what went wrong.
It makes those Paris scenes almost hard to watch,
Mm-hmm.
Because you're caught up in it, the romance, but there's this shadow hanging over it all. Like, take that scene in Rick's apartment. Champagne, stolen glances, but then Ilsa says, and this line kills me every time she says, why I should find you waiting for me to come along.
Oh, that line. Talk about loaded, right? Yeah. Even when it's good, when the sparks are flying, there's a part of her that's holding back. Like deep down, she knows it can't last. The writers, they weren't afraid to get real about love, It's not always simple.
And then you've got La Belle Aurore, the world's ending outside, literally with the newsreels and all, but inside, Rick and Ilsa, they find this bubble. The war just vanishes for a minute.
Exactly. And that's what makes their connection so powerful, so tragic. It's not just a fling. It's like finding shelter in a storm. But it can't last, right? The screenplay never lets you forget that. Those newsreels, the refugees, the bombings, it's this constant reminder. Their happiness hanging by a thread.
And then enter the letters of transit. Talk about your potential plot hole, right?
Yeah.
But they do something really smart with them. The letters become the symbol of hope, a way out of Casablanca, but also this huge, ugly reminder of the choices people have to make in wartime.
Right. It's like a moral test, these letters. You got Renault, sees them and smells profit, pure and simple. Then there's Laszlo. For him, it's about fighting the Nazis, but he won't compromise his values to get there. And Rick.
Yeah.
Stuck in the middle, love pulling one way, this growing sense of duty pulling him the other.
It's all there in how they react and what they say. Everybody quotes Casablanca, and it's crazy how many of those lines tie back to those letters. Round up the usual suspects. Here's looking at you, kid. All about the letters. Even Rick's whole I stick my neck out for nobody thing. It's not just being cool. It shows you who they are.
Exactly. The writers, they use those lines to give weight to every choice. And it all leads up to that climax at the airport.
Man, that airport scene, the fog, the way that plane's just sitting there waiting, it gets me choked up every single time.
Because that's where it all pays off. Remember we talked about the letters being more than just a way out. All those choices, those sacrifices, this is where they collide.
It's like you can feel that plane engine, that low rumble, ready to take Ilsa away. Talk about tension.
And it all comes down to Rick, right? Our cynical, seen-it-all leading man. He's the one who lays it out. The problems of three little people don't amount to a hill of beans in this crazy world. He gets it now, doesn't he?
Right, like he's finally seeing past his own pain.
Remember way back we talked about that line of Renault's?
Yeah.
About Rick being a sentimentalist deep down. This is it right here.
Yeah.
That sentimentality, it's turning into something bigger, something selfless almost. He's not just saying Laszlo's words back to him. He's taking them on, you know, putting the fight, the cause ahead of his own happy ending.
And Ilsa, we got to give her credit too. This isn't one of those stories where the woman's just waiting around to be saved. She's got her own impossible choices to make.
Exactly. They could have written her so easily as, I don't know, helpless, but she's not. She loves Rick. We know that. But there's her husband, what he stands for. It's a lot, and you see it on her in every scene.
Okay, so then, that ending. Rick, Renault walking off into the fog. It's hopeful, kinda, but we don't actually know, do we? Do they make it to the free front? Did things stick with Rick?
That's what makes it brilliant, right? Life's messy, especially in wartime. They show us Rick changing, but no one's promising a fairy tale. It makes you think, what happens next? Does he stay on this path? You're still thinking about it when the credits roll.
It's more honest that way, I guess. They could have tacked on a happy ending, easy. Rick and Ilsa, riding off into the sunset.
But that's not true, is it? Not to who these characters are, the world they're living in. Casablanca lasts because it gets that sometimes the most romantic thing is letting go, that love isn't always about happy endings, but doing the right thing even when it hurts like hell.
Wow. So we started asking why Casablanca is still up there, the king of the hill after all these years. Honestly, it's more than just a love story, right? Yeah, there's romance, sure, but there's intrigue, there's having to choose sides, there's doing the right thing when the whole world's gone crazy. It's the kind of movie that sticks with you, you find yourself thinking about it, maybe humming a little as time goes by. And it's not just the nostalgia, it's the weight of it all, the sacrifice, the hope. That's what makes it timeless.